Once there was an opportunity for a person to acquire a magic utility. The system is very popular lately in this world, and everyone needs it. The power of the attributes was at its maximum. His name was Shifu, and he was a poor man in the 18th generation of society. Even though he was poor, he still tried to maintain his appearance. His parents disappeared from his life very early. He lost his mom very early, and his father became drunk after that incident. He had a hard childhood, and his life was not as smooth as he wanted it to be. Shifu also had a relationship, but not long ago, and it is not surprising that the girl left such a poor man. The guy was very unpleasant, because he had worked hard on this relationship. He even got a job at a construction site to earn some money. For her sake, he was ready to take any risks. This guy also had a very unfortunate incurable disease. He was a very desperate man. So to take such measures and risk, it was the only way out in his situation. But unfortunately, the guy was unlucky and the sorcerer deceived Shifu. And in such a difficult, seemingly hopeless situation, there is no place to go but to become a great guardian and teacher of the universe level. To get married, to build a better life, and to reach the very top, through a difficult and very thorny path. And the guy finds himself at the exact moment when his life was going downhill and gets caught in an incredible stream of hallucination and reincarnation. It was an incredible strongest system of the universe, which revives from within, and he feels a surge of vigor and collectiveness. The guy knew that as soon as the system was updated, he would get a new owner. All the events happened so fast that he didn't even have time to realize anything. Eventually, it was obvious that the system had just cheated. Shifu realized that in such a system, people obeyed others to protect themselves from difficulties. It was the ground floor, below the baseboard. He was at the entrance exam of an elementary school, and with only a level 0, he could only go to the cleaning class, and only to clean the whole area. The aide explained to Shifu that he could not go to the human campus of the Academy of Multiple Species. He needed to be among his own people, and he needed to go to the cleaning class immediately. The boy was flying in his spiritual thoughts. At one point Shifu just laughed, "Ha ha, and who's the loser now? I have a spirit, which is the most important thing here, and I also have a desire for immortality." The guy thought he had already succeeded. He decides that when he enters the academy, everyone will notice him. One sunny day, Shifu goes for a walk through the streets of his hometown, and at one point in the walk, he sees a nicely dressed man at a table who had called out to him a second ago. The guy approached him and asked him if he wanted something. Frowning his eyebrows a little and becoming more serious, the man at the table said loudly, "Boy, would you like to buy a utility?" When Shifu heard such a new word, he was very interested. His thoughts switched from food to utility and asked what kind of utility was it. It was explained to the guy that the utility allows him to instantly increase his enhancement to become a protector, heir apparent, marry, and become immortal. It was also explained that in this way the guy could rise to the very peak. The guy thought the man at the table was crazy and turned around and was about to leave, but the man yelled back and tried to stop him. He stopped and asked what else you wanted from me. And then the man began to surprise Shifu incredibly. The man let the guy know that he knew everything about him. He told about his childhood, how he had a lot of energy and ate a lot. The guy tried to develop as much as possible, although his environment of relatives and friends was quite terrible. He also knows about the fatal disease, and that his girlfriend dumped him over the phone when he was 3 years in love with her. A surprised Shifu ran up to this old man and asked, "How does he know all this stuff? What kind of incredible power is this?" The guy was surprised by this turn of events. He did not expect that some man from the street could know everything about him. He stood surprised with his flavorful pancake in his hands, and the man asked, "Is your pancake still flavorful?" The guy looked at him and said no. Then the man said that he would give him the utility. The man went on to explain that it will allow Oko upgrade to increase improvement. The guy will become a great protector, chief mentor, get married and reach absolute immortality as well as the peak of his powers. In other words, the guy's life would change beyond recognition. After a moment, the guy sees an incredible strong magical golden power around him, which envelopes his body. He was as surprised as possible at what was happening to him, but he was also happy that it would only improve his condition. At one point at the peak of activity, Shifu decides that he wants to reach the peak. He wants to change his life and turn his mind upside down. The man at the table got very happy and then said, "Not bad, young man. You have a whole talent." He got up from the table and shouted, "Well, talented young man." Then this man took out his huge sack and poured a lot of gold bars on the table, and then said that these are not ordinary bars, but magical, and the guy needs to choose just one. The guy doesn't really believe this man and asked again, "Are you saying that these brightly colored signs are a utility? Is this man trying to trick me?" thought Shifu. But then the man replied in a free, simple, easy voice, "Young man, you are still too young, because these are all utilities used by the unprecedented heroes of the world. After choosing such a utility, you get the body of the hero, his complete destiny, and then you can get to the peak." At one point, the guy got very excited and shouted that this was just wonderful. In that case, he's going to pick out his own utility now. Took one of the utilities in his hands. The guy read, "Your views are very promising, although a little ordinary, but this is the most important thing for the hero policeman." Shifu looked at each of the plates very carefully and with interest. He wanted to choose the best and most worthy utility for himself. He realized that his life was worth a lot, and he wanted to live it in the best possible way. The guy continued to scrutinize each of the utility plates. He scrutinized every chip and ability, but for some reason, he didn't like any of them. But then he saw her the very plaque he would be interested in. The boy instantly picked it up and began to read, "System, this is what I need. Systems in my hands, I'll have all the gifts and abilities I need. The need to work is eliminated. The system automatically helps me reach the peak." The man said in a calm voice, "Young man, you have thought carefully, because it will be impossible to refuse, and this decision will affect the rest of your life." The guy confidently declared that he was choosing this system because it was what he needed, and he had long dreamed of some incredible superpowers. The man smiled wryly and said, "Keep in mind, the system is very popular lately. Many roles like to use it, and everyone loves it." After the man's words, the irreparable happened instantly. The guy was dragged into the cloudy space of the system by an incredible strong spiritual force and began to regenerate. The superiority of magic turned into the strongest spiritual development system. When the system finally regenerated the guy in the new world, the man just sat and watched. He thought about how cheating to eat pancakes wasn't so easy. Meanwhile, the strongest spiritual magic power pierced through the guy's soul, and he wandered through a system of incredible magic. He felt like it lasted for an eternity, and then this strongest force threw him outward in a huge flood. Shifu was abruptly thrown on the shore of the Atlantic Ocean. The guy had no strength at all. He woke up and did not realize at all where he was, and what was around him. He felt only maximum powerlessness. After 1 minute, the guy heard a rather loud laughter near him. Turning around, he saw a lot of girls having fun and enjoying their vacation on the beach. The guy couldn't believe his eyes, the very beautiful terrain around him. After using the utility, he didn't expect such a change. So many naked beauties he had never seen before in his life. Looking at the girls, the guy heard a question in a woman's voice. "Are you a pervert?" It was a girl who was right under him, buried 90% in the sand. The guy was just in shock. First he was scared, and then he apologized to the girl and explained that he just fell out of the sky. The girl said that she understood everything He was just a pervert who fell from the sky. After the girl came to her senses, she remembered everything her aunt had told her about what to do if she met a pervert. At one point, the girl jumps up and starts attacking the guy with her foot. The girl understood perfectly well that she had to fight back against the pervert, to try to destroy him, preferably even instantly. She also began to shout to all her friends that they would be careful, because on the beach there is a pervert. Her friends quickly heard the girl's screams and were surprised. One of the group of girls shouted that they should get dressed and leave quickly. All the girls in a slight panic began to quickly gather their things and dress as best they could. They tried to do it before they met the pervert. After a while after the girls' attack, Shifu slipped through and began to slowly open his eyes. The girls were already standing in front of him and looking at how handsome he was, but they also realized that handsome men could also be inadequate. When the guy finally came to his senses, he saw many girls standing in front of him discussing something. They explained to the main girl that this guy had just groped one of the mentors of the kingdom, and this girl wanted to marry him. This turn of events upset the girl very much, but the guy started to say that it was not like that, and he was not a pervert. Then why did you come here in the first place? The girl asked Shifu. The guy really did not know what to say to the girl. He thought about what to do, and then remembered about his new utility. The guy asked his subconsciousness if the system was working, and if it was in him at all, to which he received the answer that there was no one in him, and the inner voice surprised and then made the guy angry. How can it be? If there is no one, then who is talking to me? The system then responded that the guy got into big trouble for his journey, so now soon he will fall into eternal sleep. It's very serious. The unique intergalactic space is destroying time, and maybe soon the system will have to find a new host. The boy was shocked by the new news. Such an adventure right now in his life he had never expected to see. He's just got to take advantage of the system. Then a big girl with a rather impressive body shape came up to Shifu. She said that she was ready to destroy this decent man in a few seconds. There's no place for debauchery in their society. They think it's wrong. Then she pulled out her 2 blades and threatened the guy. Shifu tried to quickly explain that it was all a ridiculous mistake and he was misunderstood. The guy had very little time before the girl was about to destroy him on the spot, and he shouted, Systemea, well, where are you? Urgently show yourself. He already thought that if everything was wasted, he would have to go back to the old man who cheated him for a pancake, and also settle all scores with him. The guy was sad as suddenly in a moment the system suddenly turned on, and in front of the guy appeared a hologram that brought him back. Then the system asked the owner to go through a special task for data binding. The system ordered the guy to perform a very necessary task, say 10 times, I love you very much to the girl in front of you, and then immediately perform that item the system has ordered again. Shifu begins to realize that by completing the first task offered to him, he will be able to bind the system and start using all of its utilities. Then the system repeated, please confess your love 10 times to the girl standing right in front of you. The guy was thinking about what kind of dangerous task it is, because he is performing it risking his life. At one point the girl has already used the instant fire power of the 100th level and began to attack the guy. Lascivious, I'm going to destroy you, the girl said. Shifu was already scared for his life, but he did not give up and offered to discuss everything, but the girl ignored the guy and continued her fire attack. The strongest force was already 1 meter away from the guy. When the girl started to swing each blade, the guy started to shout that he loves her. The girl had already taken a swing at the guy, and then she realized what the guy had said, and she was surprised, froze abruptly, and asked him what he had just said. She was just in a stupor and didn't know how to act. The guy sharply louder and louder shouted that he loves this girl. He shouted, I love you, I love you. The girl just did not know how to behave. She froze with this blade and did not know what to say to the guy, because this was the first time such a situation occurred to her, and she just caught a stupor. The guy kept saying these words until he broke the girl's heart with his penetrating words. She and everyone around her were completely shocked by what happened. They couldn't believe their eyes and ears. They couldn't believe that it was true or that it was really happening. The girl could not believe her ears. If it was true, the beloved was simply shocked by this news about her boyfriend. One of the girls said, "Whether it is true or not, but his courage is commendable. He is a real man." The other girls also supported, "Yes, confessing love is much scarier than dying." Huge girl at first caught just euphoria and high from what is happening to her at this moment, that she can love. But then her anger seized her, and she shouted loudly that she does not believe this guy, and he is just lying. At one moment, the girl became more and more angry and started her attack on the guy. She swung her blade at him, and already held her knife in front of the guy's face. Her eyes were filled with red bright light, and it was clear that the girl aimed to destroy him instantly, right here and now. The guy was so scared that he closed his eyes and shouted loudly that he loved this girl, and at one moment, she heard it. She melted, and the knife fell out of her hands. Then the girl turned around and ran away and started screaming that she hates everyone. The guy was just shocked by the situation. After that, the guy's system showed up, congratulated him on his first task, and informed him that the system was being linked. In an instant, the guy's thoughts all jumbled up in his head, memories began to flow one after another, and Shifu fell into an incredible trance. Then the system informed him that the host would be put into a deep sleep so that the system could connect to him. The next beautiful sunny day, the guy wakes up in one of the local huts. He does not understand what happened to him, and his body is overcome with dehydration. He is very thirsty and has no strength to stand up. Shifu continues to lie in bed, trying to tune into the normal flow of his thoughts and get away from everything that is happening. At one point, the system informs him that the system binding is complete and also congratulates him on the official launch of the system. This news made the guy jump out of bed. He was incredibly happy about the news. He thought about the fact that after all these problems, the utility capabilities are finally unlocked and he will be able to do everything he dreams of. The guy realized that perfection would increase dramatically. He would become a protector, work as a chief mentor, and get married and gain immortality. Shifu continued to rejoice in his renewal, realizing that he would reach the peak of his spiritual practice and that it was not far off. But at one moment, he heard footsteps coming closer and closer, and then he saw him. When the boy looked up, he saw a huge, muscular, spiritually strong man in front of him. He was the older brother of the local lord's girlfriend. He asked the boy, "Are you the guy who tricked my sister?" The guy pretended not to hear and decided to ask the man again. The guy pretended not to hear and decided to ask the man again. The spiritually strong man explained, "You hurt my sister, and you dare to ask me anything and drive yourself like that. It seems that you want to provoke me in this incredible world and academy of excellence." To which Shifu said that it was just a mistake. The man got very angry and started attacking the guy. He also said that everyone saw his worthlessness. He also said that from today, he wants to make the guy an invalid. The guy was already turning his life around and then decided to turn to his system. He said that the system was bringing him nothing but misfortune, immediately let it show him some crowning technique so that he could defeat this man. The system ignored him and only explained that it acts according to the equivalent mechanism, and this is the basic principle. The master needs to figure out the problem himself. A few seconds later, the sister was in the room, and she shouted to her brother to stop. But he was so furious that he told her not to interfere in the affairs of men. But the girl loudly told her brother that they loved each other. In fact, Shifu didn't even know how to react. On the one hand, He was glad that he was not going to be destroyed, but on the other hand, he didn't know what awaited him next. The big woman said to close the guy's mouth, otherwise her brother would destroy him instantly, and that would be the end of it. The guy, from what he heard, did not know what to do and how to behave at all. The strongest huge man was still furious and held the guy right by his clothes, but then he calmed down and pushed the guy to the floor and told him to be kinder to his sister, otherwise he would have a very bad future, and what was now for him would seem like a holiday. The huge man also threatened the boy that if he did not behave properly, he would throw him into the Demon Academy, and then this guy will be there to feed the mice. Then the man silently left Sherfu and his sister and walked away. The guy was sitting on the floor and was still in shock from the situation, but the big girl informed him that she knew that his confession yesterday was a lie. But this guy was the first to confess his love to her, and she was very touched, so she decided to save his life. Sherfu was very happy and laughed. He thanked the girl and shouted thank you to her. The girl said that her brother has a very bad temper, and if someone offends him, he will definitely destroy this character. So they searched for a solution to this situation together. They thought about what they should do so that the brother would not destroy him. Then the guy realized that they should just pretend to be in love. Then the big girl told the guy that tomorrow night he should come to her dormitory and pretend that they were already a couple. This proposal did not please the guy, and it was very obvious on his face. After that, the girl said that she had to go. Now she would leave first, and the guy should not forget to go to her dormitory because it is very important. First of all, it's important for Sherfu's life. Before leaving, the big girl turned to the guy and sent him an air kiss goodbye, which pierced the guy's soul. The girl added that their feelings were developing slowly and rapidly. Sherfu was disappointed. He did not know what to do next, and how to live in such a world. As soon as the big girl left the hut, the boy shouted loudly, "System, tell me, where is the promised and rich, beautiful girl? What's happening to me? What's happening to this world?" In a moment, a hologram of the system appeared in front of the guy. From the hologram appeared the system administrator, the cat, whose name was Bonya. He immediately began to explain to the guy that he needed to stay calm. Although the system was successfully linked, not all its functions were fully loaded. So Bonya told Sherfu that once the activation of all the functions was complete, the master would easily reach the peak of his abilities. This is simply the incredible ability of a god. Sherfu shouted sharply at Bonya, "Fine, I'll believe you again," the boy said loudly. Their conversation was interrupted by a sharp knock on the door, and the guy had to gather his thoughts. It was his ex-girlfriend and classmate who came to visit him. The girl came to the threshold of the hut and said hello and asked how the guy was feeling and how he was in general. The guy explained to the girl that he was not feeling well. He also noticed that the girl was very afraid of him and told her that he was not a pervert. It was just a misunderstanding yesterday. Then he introduced himself and said his name was Sherfu. The girl seemed to calm down a little and then said, "Well, lecherous Sherfu, let's meet again. Welcome to the United Island country of many species." The girl smiled a little embarrassed and waved her hands to the sides. Sherfu was very surprised by the girl's words, and then he asked her again, "Is it an island nation? Is it an island nation?" The girl answered him that yes, it is a state of many small islands, and there is a united academy for the improvement of numerous races. The guy asked again, "Is there an academy of perfection here?" The girl didn't repeat her words. She just told the guy to forget it, because he wouldn't understand even if she repeated her words. This girl's name was Dasha, and she told Sherfu that she would show him the best way to see with his own eyes how their world and the universe of the magical islands really works. Dasha also said that he should always be careful, because the islands are very mysterious and dangerous. The girl gave Sherfu a tour of the island and showed him that many people on this island really do gain their magic power and improve their existing skills. Magical universe power is not just an opportunity, it is a gift in the company of people. Sherfu was shocked by what he had seen, and he realized that this was indeed an academy of excellence. After looking around a bit, the boy asked, "This part of the Academy of Perfection belongs to the human race, right?" The boy asked curiously. The girl replied that, in other words, one of the campuses of the Academy of Perfection and the attainment of immortality of numerous races. Dasha let the guy know that this island was the human campus, and the others were populated by students of other races. Then she awkwardly asked the boy, "By the way, you are the new student of our island, right?" He thought about the situation for a while and replied that it seemed to be like that. He was a new student. Then in his mind he thought that this old man had dragged him into this world to become a student. During the discussion of all the questions, Dasha sharply asked the guy if he had registered in the class at all. He didn't expect such a question, because no one had ever told him anything about registering. In fact, Sherfu didn't even know that he would end up on this island. The girl was surprised that the guy didn't know about the registration, and after thinking for a while, she said that the person who brought him here was too irresponsible, and it shouldn't be like that. Taking Sherfu's hand, the girl said, "Okay, even though you're a pervert, they'll be classmates in the future." Sherfu was surprised at how nice the girl was to him. Then she took his hand and told him that she would take him to the registration place, and they should go there right away because they might not make it in time. At this moment, the board of directors was discussing work matters. The headmaster was discussing, "This year's trainees are extremely talented and qualified, from which we can conclude that the Human Race Academy is thriving." And the truth was supported by his deputy. "In previous years, we had terrible students, but now we have achieved prosperity." The headmaster and his deputies discussed that this time there were no such negative incidents, which they couldn't be happier about. Then the deputy said, "I have high hopes for the new students. They can go down in history as the strongest and most powerful members of the human race." After the conversation between the principal and his deputy was over, the principal looked at his watch and looked at the time. All time was up. Registration was over. We could call it a day. The director was already packing his things when suddenly he heard his name being called. Looking up, he saw a girl standing with a guy, and then she said that it was a student who had come to register. The other students of the academy were very much surprised, because they recognized the girl and couldn't understand why she would personally bring someone to the registration. This girl was not easy. She was one of the top 10 freshmen. Besides, she was the only girl among them. Everyone was thinking that the man she brought in must be a genius. Maybe a genius, but who knows if he'll make it into the top 3 and the chosen ones. The director was very surprised that the girl had come and that she had brought someone at all. He asked, "Is this another talent?" Then he told the boy that he had to pass the tests as soon as possible because it was very important for his further existence in the academy. Sherfu realized that he seemed to have high expectations and faith in him. The deputy director thought that the girl was incredibly talented and had good prospects, so she simply brought in an unusual guy who could be very capable. The guy was thinking about the situation. He felt the support of everyone and realized how much everyone believed in him. He wanted not to let them down. Sherfu smiled and thought that maybe he was really that awesome. Maybe he just hadn't noticed it himself. The director got up from his chair and said, "Young man, introduce yourself." Then the director held out an interesting product. "Put your hand on the testing device, then the stone arrow will independently show your level of improvement." The guy introduced himself loudly. The principal also told the guy in front of him that there was a person who had just reached the 7th level of spirit connection. There was also a guy with the 8th level of perfection. So many talented people came to this place. Guy sharply started. Since I was chosen by fate itself, I will be fine, and nothing will let me down. After these words, the guy shouted before the test and sharply hit the test button. After that, an incredible power swept completely around all the people who were nearby. The other students did not understand what had happened to the heavenly arrow. The other students concluded that it must be because this unicum had appeared, and he was clearly not. If it was Dasha who brought him, then he is obviously an unusual character, because she is always accurate in her choices. In an instant, the tower showed incredible regeneration and reported the guy's level. Everyone present was in deep shock, and some even started laughing. The tower showed that Sherfu had a level 0, so he was actually a normal person and was just pretending. He must be the most worthless student in the history of the Academy of Multiple Races. They handed him a mop and said, "Here you go, buddy." The boy couldn't figure out what was going on at the moment, but the principal explained, "Since you have level 0, you can enter the human race campus of the Academy of Multiple Species, but only in the janitorial class." The director also said that if the boy improved his level of perfection, he would be able to enter a higher class in the future. But this news only upset the boy, and he didn't know whether to be happy that he had gotten here at all. In fact, the guy was very upset. He thought it was a system to achieve immortality or a technical school for ordinary people. At one moment, there was a cat Bonya. He congratulated the guy on the official enrollment in the academy and the beginning of his journey to achieve immortality. The guy was shocked by the word of the system cat. Bonya also opened the panel of attributes of the guy, and instantly before him appeared a hologram of his special abilities. They surprised the guy, because they did not differ from a normal person, but he was the owner of the utility. His strength was at level 3, speed, defense, spells were at 0 level. The guy carefully watched everything that Bonya showed him, then it just amused him. He realized that he was just some worthless, and he only had 0 level. But he naively believed that the utility would be unlocked and would help him achieve instant success in all areas. Then the system told the guy that he should sing the song White Bunny right in public. And he needs to do it immediately. It can help him a lot. Based on the audience shake-up scores, singing will increase your spirit gathering prowess from level 1 to level 4, which will help you a lot. The guy was not very happy with this news. He couldn't believe the White Bunny, the same widespread divine comedy popular with children from 1 to 3 years old. But Sherfu was well aware that everyone was in their 20s. This song didn't fit at all in this environment. The principal told the boy not to despair. The difference between the classes is small. Even though he is an unremarkable student, he has all the opportunities. After all, the boy has done something original in this place. He said that the future of the boy is still bright and full of hope. The academy is very hopeful for him. At one point, Sherfu realized what he had to do, which was to sing a song. He went to the principal and said that he wanted to sing a song, thus expressing his excitement at the moment. The principal was very surprised because he didn't expect such a turn of events, and then he simply asked if you really wanted to sing a song because of your excitement. The director thought that he must have really touched him with his speeches. If this young man wanted to sing a song, he must be a very good, outstanding, and memorable director. Then the director was offended by the silence. Everyone shut up. Also the director said, "Now we will all perform a song." The guy who was very new, "Let's listen to it." Everyone who was at the event was very surprised. Sherfu gathered his thoughts, stood in front of everyone, and began to sing a song. One of the students at the academy shouted that he loved the song. The students present at the academy were discussing amongst themselves how the boy performed. In their opinion, the song was a very beautiful thing. They also noticed that the boy could sing quite well, which was a pretty good skill considering that he was at a very low level. The girl nicely supported the guy, she shouted that he was doing well. The guy looked at all the crowd that had gathered around him, and then he started singing an old children's song. A song about a little white bunny. After his first words, everyone around him was amazed. All those present at the event were very surprised. They could not believe their ears. Besides the director and his deputy, even the girl of the guy who brought him here was surprised. The guy had already gotten the hang of it and just sang non-stop. At one point it seemed like he was even enjoying it. At one point the system informed him that the perfection of collecting spirits had been upgraded to level 1. You get 2 skill points. The guy thought that it was not bad. The level of improvement had increased, so the old headmaster would be shocked to death. He waited with curiosity to see what would happen next. The guy kept singing a children's song, very loudly and confidently. Everyone around him covered their ears. They couldn't listen to him. But he did not stop and continued his work, because he knew what it was all for, and what he forgot here. At one point, the guy's vocal performance was rated at 4 stars, which was very good for him. Then the system also reported that the perfection of collecting spirits was upgraded to a whole 2nd level, and now the guy was getting 2 more skill points. Shifu couldn't be happy that he was finally doing well. Everything seemed to be going according to plan, and he would get what he wanted. Shifu had never dreamed that his life would finally take on a completely different color. Besides those who were really on the guy's leash, someone didn't fall for it. One of the students at the academy thought that the new classmate was trying to do magic, and he didn't like the guy's abrupt actions with his vocals very much. Then this person decided, after all, the Human Race Academy campus has never had an outstanding talent being at level 0. So this guy is a genius, and he quietly has the right to be among all of us Academy students. At one point, the system informs the guy that the perfection of spirit gathering has been upgraded to level 3, and the guy gets 2 more skill points in his piggy bank. And that's because the guy's performance was rated 5 stars. The guy continued to sing his song, and he realized that everyone would still be swiping in front of him with both hands. He was already confident in his actions. He suggested to the other students to stop loitering. Come on, come on. As he continued his performance, he suggested to the principal and his deputy that they relax, jump around a bit and dance. The principal was not very happy about this incident. He thought that it was bad luck. This is the biggest failure in his career. What an annoying student he is. The guy was already as confident as possible in his abilities. He proudly walked down the street. Everyone around him looked at him with surprise. But he realized that after raising the selection of spirits to the 3rd level, the first step to achieving immortality has already been taken. Then the guy decides what to do because he is already dusty of the 3rd level, and right time to check how good and strong he is. And a very interesting idea popped into the guy's head. And the thought was that the guy wanted to sharply attack the tree with his strongest fist. Strongly sprawled out, the guy hit the tree foolishly and struck with his right hand, and then felt the strongest penetrating pain. After the blow, he screamed very hard, for his arm was filled with extreme pain. The guy couldn't understand what was wrong with this system, if his 3rd level wasn't real, and it was all a fake. Shifu was really angry. He was really frustrated that he couldn't even hit a tree, and most importantly, he was in pain. So what was his 3rd level? The system manager Bonya abruptly appeared behind the guy's back. He greeted him and informed him that the perfection reflected only a small amount of spiritual energy quality in the body. Bonya informed the guy that if he wanted to do damage to someone, he needed to learn the proper moves to do so, because it was very important. He also told the boy that he needed to increase his skill points, and then he would definitely succeed. At the moment, Shifu only had 6 skill points. He was told to click on the scoreboard and then improve his chosen skill. At one point, a huge hologram appeared in front of the guy with his stats and skills that could be improved. And the guy finally realized that he had to increase his skills himself. He decided for himself that first of all, he needed to eliminate the lack of power, which he lacked and wanted to possess so much. So he decided for himself specifically and immediately what he needed, because it could radically change his life in the direction of which he has been dreaming for a long time. Shifu was well aware that in order to improve, he needed to acquire magic, and he needed to stay away from his past, so that he could attract what he wanted in his life, namely girls, and give them what they wanted. He realized that no one likes anyone who has only power, and he would be a dog if he repeated his past life. He opened the system hologram and carefully watched the skills and statistics. At one point, the guy decides that he needs to increase magic. He decides to increase magic by 2 points and see the result. The guy presses the button to improve the magic skill. The guy was very surprised because after pressing the button, nothing happened. He turned to the system because this outcome did not suit him at all. "What is this system?" asked him. "Why I cannot increase magic? What is this?" The guy asked unhappily and loudly. The system manager Cat immediately appeared in front of the boy and informed him that according to the check, the system had not yet been adapted to the host body, so the attribute panel could not be fully activated. There are some problems with skill upgrades. So far, it is impossible to add points to the magic attribute. The guy got very angry. "It's not adapted. So what is it? Why me?" Shifu said loudly, "I knew you couldn't be relied upon. Why can't the system be adapted?" Bonya replied that the system shows that the strength of the host's body is too high, so only strength can be increased on the attribute panel. Shifu was not at all happy with this situation, and immediately decided to ask again, "Only strength? Are you saying that I can only increase strength, and nothing else?" The guy held his head in his hands, and was very upset. "Should my tragic life be repeated here at the academy? It's just brutal, not the system. Why do I need it? The system, fuck you." After some thought, Shifu realizes that it's not as bad as he thought, but it's better than nothing at all. So he has to get his will together and move on. After finally coming to his senses, Shifu decides that strength is strength. A hologram of his skills appears in front of the guy, and then the guy chooses to improve his strength. Then the guy went to that famous place of all students, namely the dormitory. Arriving at the place, the guy was surprised at what a beautiful building was in front of him. He could not believe that this is really a dormitory for freshmen. He knocked on the door. He didn't know if his roommate was there or who the character was. Shifu's strength was so strong that a few blows with his fist were enough to open the door. The door was opened by a fat man who was not happy. Shifu greeted him, but the man didn't react at all, his face showing that he wasn't happy about the new guest. The fat man was very angry with the guy. He asked him what the hell was going on. "Are you a pervert already?" He asked Shifu if he knew about manners and if he had heard of them, if he had not tried to knock. The guy said he had knocked, but the door was just weak. The guy immediately concluded that it looked like he should be more careful next time. It was hard to control the power after he had put all his points into it. Then the fat man asked, "So what do you want here?" The guy introduced himself as Shifu. Then he said that he was the new student of the cleaning academy. The fat man ran to get dressed when he heard the news, and when he arrived, he looked at the boy carefully and listened to him. The fat man took the guy's hand and said, "Classmate, so then I'm glad to meet you. Let's be friends." Shifu was very surprised at the change in the man's behavior. The guy was really surprised that they would actually be in the same class. The fat man confirmed that it was true, and then he introduced himself as Bert. He also admitted that he was a little older than Shifu. Shifu couldn't hide his surprise, for the man in front of him seemed very old to him. Then the guy said, "I hope you won't be offended, but can I ask how did you end up in first grade?" Laughing, the fat man replied, That's easy. I'll tell you all about it. I've been a sophomore 20 times in a row, he said with a smile. This statement surprised the guy very much. He was shocked, and he could not believe his ears. Really 20 times in a row, he asked. Our protagonist had a very interesting thought in his head, which means that you have more experience than some of the teachers and professors at the academy, Shifu asked the fat man. The man replied, You are thinking very right. Of course, I have a lot of experience. The man also said that many new teachers ask him on the first day what is going on in the academy. They even consult with him. After a moment, the man said that enough talking, they should go to class. Their lesson was about to start. Then the man led Shifu into the classroom, and they entered a large, spacious classroom with other students already in it. Shifu smiled and said that he thought the cleaning class would be held in the storeroom. It was quite nice in the classroom, and very cozy. The man also supported this dialogue and said, After all, this is quite an official class at the academy. The man also said that even though they send the worst students here, it's very good, but they should also be responsible for cleaning the whole academy. After he said that, a teacher came into the classroom. As soon as the instructor entered the classroom, he told everyone to calm down and then greeted everyone. Welcome to the Academy of Perfecting Immortality of Multiple Races. My dear students, he said. This instructor turned out to be the classroom teacher of the cleaning class. He asked for maximum attention and silence from the students. But many students simply ignored him, and some of them slept during the lecture. The class teacher immediately noticed that the fat man was sleeping on the desk, and he shouted loudly and sharply, Sit up straight! The fat man raised his head and asked the teacher to get away from him and not to touch him. Stand up now, the teacher shouted. How do you talk to your class teacher? The fatty immediately replied to him, My dear class teacher, you've been at the academy for 10 years less than me, and when you were a freshman, I stood up for you. Then the fat man asked, My dear class teacher, do you really want me to get up now? The teacher was very surprised by the student's impudence and did not know what to say. After some thought, the teacher said, Forget it. He realized that there was nothing he could do about people like him, and it was better to let him do as he pleased and as he wished. Shifu was very happy that the fat guy was so cool that even the teacher shaved him, and he was also happy that he was his neighbor. The fat man replied to Shifu that of course he was cool, or did he think he hadn't done anything for 20 years? The fat man also noted that in this academy, for so many years, he had become respected by everyone. The teacher started to introduce the lecture. He said that there were both old students and newcomers in the class, but the newcomers were much more numerous. He also said that all of them had no talent, no skills, poor and poorly educated. Then he asked, Aren't you satisfied with this? Don't you want to try and do better and be better than you are now? One of the students replied, Teacher, if those who are more talented than us are also harder in their studies, what is the point of us working harder and getting better? This question threw the teacher off balance a bit. He didn't know what to say for a moment, and then he said, Good question. Maybe one of you can answer why you should still study hard and develop. After this question, the audience was completely silent. The students were absolutely silent. Then the teacher snapped and loudly announced that anyone who answered would be relieved of cleaning duties for 10 days. He said this because he realized that even he didn't know what to say to the question. Shifu raised his hand and said, I can answer, but I will answer based on my personal experience. The boy said, I think we should try harder to realize how powerless we really are. This statement surprised the teacher as much as possible. He didn't even know what to say to the boy. Excellent answer, supported the guy fat neighbor, and then said, And I think that thanks to those who threw me on the ground, I now lie comfortably on it. That's right, all right, supported the audience of guys. One of the students said, "Success does not always come with hard work, but without hard work you can always relax and rest." The students kept reciting their thoughts from their heads, saying that there is nothing hard in the world if you just give up. If you try to achieve something, you can ruin everything. Such a statement of students very much upset and angered the teacher. He shouted sharply that that was enough for today, and everyone can be free, and then immediately left the classroom running away. The teacher was very angry, for he realized that there was nothing he could do to help the cleaning class. It was foolish to go on and try to put anything into their empty and stupid heads. After the students went out into the corridor, Shifu decided to ask the fat man if he knew a big guy who was quite angry. The neighbor replied that of course he knows him. He is one of the geniuses of the academy, but his behavior is not the best, and his character is very much vile. The fatty also said that this guy also has a younger sister, who is very huge and looks like a bear. 3 years in a row she is considered the ugliest girl in the academy. He also said that this guy loves his sister very much, and he is ready to destroy anyone who hurts her. The fat man also told an old story that once this guy had broken the legs of a newcomer who had just laughed at his sister. Shifu was very upset when he heard such information about the scary big girl's brother. Shifu was very upset when he heard such information about the scary big girl's brother. He thought about how this giant was so strong that he couldn't be approached. He also wondered how big the gap was between his third-level spirit gathering and this giant. Toljak immediately laughed because he realized that the gap between the guy and the giant was very huge, and then he said, "In fact, the difference between you is very big. His strength is enough for 1,800 people like you." After hearing all this information, Shifu realized that he probably had no choice but to resist this giant, and it turns out that he would have to participate in what the big girl was up to. That same evening, the guy came under a very beautiful house that shone light from the windows on the night street with a forest. Everything was very beautiful and mysterious. Coming, the guy realizes, it seems, that this is the dormitory of this big girl. Coming under the door of the dormitory, guy gathered his thoughts and knocked on the door. He did not open the door for a long time. It was very confused guy, because the girl told him that she would wait for him, and obviously here it cannot be closed. Shifu decides not to hesitate and pull the handle, as well as knock. The guy sharply grabbed the handle, and it was torn off in his hands with a crack. Damn, he thought, I've miscalculated my power again. I should get used to it. The situation turned out to be a problem for the guy for the second time, but he opened the doors and got inside. When Shifu entered the building, he was confused because he didn't know where to go. After walking down the corridor, he turned around and was shocked by what he saw. Shifu was shocked by what he saw. Beautiful, stunning blonde sat in a beautiful dress and a mask over her eyes. The girl was enjoying her evening treatments. Incredible delicious smell from her legs and smelled for the guy. Shifu was confused because she wasn't the one he was looking for, but she was so attractive that Shifu couldn't take his eyes off her body and legs. In the moment, the girl says that she is very hot and starts unbuttoning her light cotton shirt. The girl explains that it's summer and it's very hot days. In the moment, the guy saw absolutely all the beauty of this beautiful lady, who was in great need of male attention and affection. The guy was very shocked by what he saw. Shifu got so high on what he saw that he stepped back a few meters, not noticing he had hit a huge vase that was right behind him, and it's about to fall. The vase falls sharply to the floor and shatters. A loud rumble throughout the first floor of the dormitory. The guy realizes that it's Tinny. He's obviously screwed up really badly, and now he's just burned and he's going to get caught. The girl smiled sweetly, as she was obviously waiting for someone besides her evening feminine procedures. The girl was very happy that the one she was waiting for had already arrived, so she said sweetly without seeing him, "Come to me." Sherfu realizes that he was just looking for his girlfriend in mistaken room, and this girl will now only make things worse. The guy decides that the best solution for him will be to get out of this place sooner. As soon as the guy turned to leave, the beautiful girl loudly announced that she wanted a gentle and then rough shoulder massage, because today she wants to enjoy everything. The girl was clearly determined to get everything she wanted on this day, and at once. Sherfu thought about the situation, because he was faced with a very difficult choice. He did not know what to do, whether to leave or to stay for a while. The girl was more and more active with each phrase. In moments of her speech, you could notice that she was like a kitty cat, very affectionate and adorable. It was very difficult for the guy to restrain himself in front of such a nice, wonderful girl, his feelings for her, and he headed towards the couch where the girl was sitting. Then she loudly declared that she wanted a caressing and cozy roughness from his hands. Sherfu couldn't look at this young attractive person anymore, so he immediately started to reach out his hands to the girl and then took a good grip on her delicate, attractive shoulders. The girl felt goosebumps all over her back. The girl continued to enjoy the touch and then said, "You're stronger than before. I feel so good now. I think you just need to keep moving with your hands." Then the girl took hold of the guy's hands that were on her shoulders and was very surprised that his hands were so rough. But the girl said that she had already recommended many times to take care of the skin, and it is not her problem when they do not want to listen to her. Meanwhile, the night was progressing quickly and other students were heading for the house. One of them said that this was the house where the first beauty of the newcomers lived. This guy's name was Gesha. He confessed that he saw this girl exactly a month ago. She was as charming and sweet as possible. It was his first love at first sight. So he respected and loved her very much. But much to Gesha's dismay, he then went to catch monsters in a sea of western stardust. The guy confessed that he used the monster's core, filled with its life force, to make a secret magic potion. He really wanted this potion to please this beautiful and wonderful girl. The whole neighborhood was very supportive of the guy. They were sure that she will like it, because the guy put his heart and soul into it. In fact, it was late at night and very late in the day, so it was not appropriate to go to the sorority house at that time. The brother of the fat girl was also heading there. He was sure that nothing was indecent. This guy said that he loved his sister, so he should be calm. He wanted to see for himself. He explained that that was why he wanted to see if Sherfu would show up. If not, he would rip his legs off and destroy him instantly. The guy was very strong. He knew it would be very easy for him to destroy Sherfu. These two guys were surprised to meet at night near the girl's dormitory. The big girl's brother asked what the guy was doing here, to which he replied that he had brought a gift and wanted to give it to her. While the guy was talking about why he came to the women's dormitory at night, the big girl's brother ignored the guy and acted decisively as they approached the door of the building. The guy decided that if they could get in, they should get in. Meanwhile, Sherfu was massaging the shoulders of a gorgeous young lady who was smiling sweetly and enjoying the guy's hands. He was a little tense, but he continued to massage the girl's shoulders with confidence. After a few minutes, the girl got bored with the massage. She started to get up from the couch and said that she wanted to be held. The girl was determined to be in his arms right away. She kneeled on the couch, approached Sherfu, and said loudly, "Come on, what are you waiting for?" The guy with tenderness and ostrodnosti touched the girl's waist, and then she jumped into his arms. It was noticeable how the girl was getting high from this process, but the guy started to worry very much. The girl was very surprised that her friend grew up and somehow high. At one moment, Sherfu hears sharp, loud footsteps that were already very close. The guy looks at the door and realizes that it looks like he is in big trouble. He's got an attractive young blonde on his hands right now. When they entered the house, the brother of the big girl and the other guy were very surprised at what they saw in front of them. The girl was lightly dressed with cucumbers on her eyes, and the guy held her delicate body in his arms and was frightened. The guy who wanted to give the gift was very angry, because now his heart was broken. He shouted very loudly that it was some kind of curse. Shifu froze in shock. He didn't know what to do, because he realized that most likely he would be finished. The girl noticed that they were standing still and asked why they had stopped. Shifu couldn't find a place to sit. His whole life had already flown before his eyes. At this moment, the big girl's brother burst in and asked angrily, "What are you two doing here?" The girl in the guy's arm starts to realize that something is wrong here and removes the pickles from her beautiful eyes. After a moment, she starts to see and can't believe her eyes. When the girl saw horny Shifu next to her, she shouted and asked what he was doing here. The guy couldn't find a place to sit. He thought he was going to burn with shame. Shifu tries to explain that it's not as the girl realized, and there was a misunderstanding between them, because he just wanted to help her. The big girl's angry brother couldn't hold back his anger, so he asked Shifu loudly, "Why are you going left, even though you already have my little sister?" At that moment, Shifu was very frightened and loudly said that no, he didn't do it. It was a huge mistake. The big girl's brother said that Shifu would be held accountable for this. The guy who came with the gift was one of the geniuses of the academy. He told the girl that she had upset him very much, and how could she cheat on him when he loved her so much. Then this guy told Shifu that how dare he steal his woman. The guy was so angry that he decided to challenge Shifu to a duel, and then abruptly threw his gift. It was obvious that he had a very hostile attitude. Shifu catches the gift right in his hands and continues to watch the situation in surprise. Then he is told that they are now leaving. The huge girl was very upset about the situation. She loudly started crying and screaming that Shifu is just a mean cheater. The girl who was enjoying Shifu's massage was also very upset. As she left, she said she was sad because she was right. This guy is a pervert. Shifu didn't know what to do because he was so embarrassed. He looked at the gift and thought that he had driven himself deeper into such shit. Upset by these events, Shifu went to his house. He walked with a box in front of him and was sad. When he arrived at the house, he was met on the couch by his neighbor, who was surprised that Shifu returned so early. The neighbor was even more amazed that the boy had come so early, and not empty-handed, but had brought some interesting gift. His curiosity was overflowing, and he wanted to know what was inside the box. The guy carefully began to open the gift, and unopened the box. The neighbor asked what's in there. "Is it really delicious red wine?" The guy was very upset. You could see that he didn't even want to open the box, but when he opened it, he said, "I have no idea what it is, but it looks like wine." The neighbor was happy, got up from the couch and said, "Great, then now we'll have a little drink and our evening will be brighter." The neighbor began to pour the unknown drink into cups, and then immediately began to taste the new drink. He liked the notes of sweet grapes and the drink in general. In fact, this fat man liked to have a good drink sometimes. The fat neighbor said it was the tastiest drink he had ever had. The guy was very happy that his neighbor brought such a gift to their house. Meanwhile, Shifu was only thinking about his own problems, namely the latest situation. He realized that in the worst-case scenario, he would be expelled from the academy. Flying in his thoughts, Shifu takes the first sip of the delicious drink that his neighbor was already drinking, and suddenly the utility system appears behind him. Congratulations on drinking the potion made from the core of the monster and reaching the 4th level of spirit gathering. Congratulations, said the system. Shifu was very happy about what had just happened to him. The guy thought about the fact that, wow, he got a bonus from this gift that he got for free. This situation cheered him up a lot, and lifted his spirits.